God created is good, and nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving, because it is consecrated by the word of God and prayer. And so I was like,
so you're saying like,
hold on, let's not
Would
really.
you like me to answer last?
I need to go get a BLT. Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm just saying. Well, I'm just saying. Well, the first thing I do, you look at the Bible as a whole,
right,
as opposed to just an individual.
Right.
Yes.
So then you start looking at patterns in the Bible. What is it? All that kind of stuff. I still don't know. Like, I've read some of the commentary, but I tried to avoid the Adventist commentary simply because it was going to be.
It's going to support.
It's going to. Yeah.
Okay,
so I want it biblical.
Okay. Well, so here's the historical part.
Okay.
The historical part, and I actually went to school. I'm a history major.
Okay.
And so, I took Bible. I took a guy who was not a Christian at all, taught us the Bible.
Okay.
And even he, when going through this text, this is what he said. Certain things we look at, we have to pay attention not only to the context, but who it's speaking to. Because if we don't do that, then it gives us permission or ease for something that is not true. For instance, when, who was it who had the dream and said, you know, Peter had the dream. Rise, Peter, kill and eat. And Peter said to God, I don't eat this stuff. This stuff is unclean. What's up with you? He says, don't you ever call unclean what I tell you is clean. And then when he woke up, then the whole thing with Cornelius came into play.
It was explained.
What came into play
in the Bible?
Listen, listen. Let me finish. Let me finish. So, when chapter 4 is playing out, they're speaking to people who have the rules, the regulations embedded in their hearts about what God wants, what God deems proper, and what God deems is true. They know that it's okay for you to marry. Some people have the gift where you don't have to marry.
That is a gift.
That's a gift. It's actually a gift. And you read the Bible, it tells you it's a gift. The same people who he's talking to already had what they're supposed to eat and what they're not supposed to eat. So if you go all the way back to Leviticus, these are the people who know what they're supposed to eat and not supposed to eat. So if someone comes to them and say, listen, we don't eat anything from the ground. We don't eat anything from the ground. Or we're completely vegetarian. If you eat, there's someone told me that if I wasn't a vegetarian, I was going to hell because it's against God's will to eat meat. And I said, you know what, that's not true. God says certain things I don't want you to eat. If you eat this thing, if you do these things, because it's not just about food. We get caught up with the food thing. It's also about certain acts. You're not clean. You have defiled yourself. And we don't want rules and regulations. It's the same thing here. We don't want the rules and regulations. But if my husband is speaking to me, I already have rules and regulations in my head that I'm starting from. My start point is not the same. Yeah, my start point. The start point here, he's talking to Jews.
Right.
Jews already had centuries of this is what you can eat. This is what you cannot. This is what you can eat. This is what you're not supposed to eat. If you eat it, you're not going to die per se, but you'll be unclean.
But
now,
how do you explain that to someone?
But now we're not dealing with Jews.
Yeah, we're not Jews.
Now we're dealing with Gentiles.
No, but these are people. Okay, so explain to me what a Gentile is.
A non-Jew.
Someone who's not Jew.
Explain to me fully what a Gentile is.
Unborn of Jewish heritage.
Now, are all Gentiles people who did not have the law of God in them at all?
No.
From the history?
No.
Because remember, the name Jew came from what? Came from who?
Judah? No, I'm just kidding.
No, because was Adam a Jew?
No.
So Adam wasn't a Jew, so Adam was a Gentile.
Adam wasn't a Jew.
Adam wasn't a Jew, so Adam was a
Gentile.
So
Abraham was a Gentile.
So Adam was a
until he
Gentile.
became...
What I'm saying is, Adam was a Gentile then, right?
I was just fast forwarding to Abraham.
Yeah. I'm going back into history. Right. Adam was a Gentile. When God says do certain things and you have it in your heart and you're being taught, you know, you have a baseline. You have a baseline.
Right.
People who have a baseline of, okay, this is what I eat, this is what I don't eat. This is what I do, this is what I don't do. Because this wasn't just, when you read the whole thing, prostitution, there's some Gentiles who it was a religious act for them to engage in acts with prostitutes, and they were actually worshiping. And so, but their baseline is different. You couldn't start talking to them like this. You had to start your baseline a lot lower or a lot differently, because some of us say, "Oh, if it's lower, you have to start."
But I agree with what you're saying. I think the question though is well and good. In 1 Timothy 4:1-5, he says everything is okay to eat. How do I parse that now? Like, regardless of the history of it, right now, 2014.
Who's Jew, who Gentile?
Yeah, somebody's like, yo, why are you talking about you don't eat pork, man? The Bible says everything is clean. If God said it's holy, if you pray over it, it's all. And people have told me, I eat pork. I'm like, why? Well, I pray over it. Bible says pray over it.
And that's my thing is this is the fight. This is the fight I have, because the fight is when I go through and I go back to the fact that I've been Adventist pretty much all my life.
Right.
And so now I go back to saying, like, okay, this is what Adventists teach.
Right.
And I'm saying now let's put it over and see if it matches. And there's some things that like I'm not sure if it matches. And the thing is, the only reason why I wouldn't do it is kind of just be like, well, I'm just not gonna do this to play it safe.
Well, no.
Here's the thing.
Okay. Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. I want to speak to that, the play it safe part, because that's been my issue, man. I've never in my life, well, I shouldn't say never. I've recently in my life not wanted to do anything because I think it's tradition.
Sure.
I don't want to do anything because it's tradition. That's ridiculous to me. We should walk on this side of the street. Really? Why? Who said? Like, so when I look at the Bible, and I even look at what Jesus said. If you look at Matthew 5, Jesus kind of puts tradition in a new context.
Yes.
He says, okay, you've heard it said, don't kill somebody. Great, okay, that's what the Bible tells you. But I'm going to tell you something different now. He's different than Paul, because he's like, I created the 10 Commandments. I created all of you.
So now
I'm about to make this joint plain. And he says, if you kill someone's reputation, that's like murder.
Oh, can I piggyback off that?
Yeah.
What happens when you read in the Bible where God says, I want you to go in there, I want you to kill every man, woman, child, and livestock. So okay, now we could kill now.
It's a cleansing.
Yeah.
We can kill. But someone, and that's my thing. As Christians, we should be okay with saying, okay, you know what? Read that. Now think about who he's talking about, and let's turn to Leviticus 11 and read about clean and unclean food. But we don't want to do that, because then they say no. But here it says that, so the Bible contradicts itself.
But it's not. My thing is that it's not about that. It's not about me wanting to do my thing.
I understand what you're saying.
No, I didn't say that.
My thing is, I want to make sure that I'm not doing something because I've taught that all my life, and the Bible's not saying that.
I agree with that.
Right,
I agree with that.
So my thing is, like, I want to see it. I read it.
I'm gonna raise my hand.
Raise your hand.
I want to read it, and then I want to. But I want to support it. I want to find it so I can be like, the Bible said it, as opposed to I heard it.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
The Adventist Church is an organization with rules. This is what my mother explains to me. And this is one thing that I actually agree with my mother. That doesn't mean my mother. One thing. Every organization has a set of rules which it abides itself by. Whether they're religion, whether they're biblical, or they're just practice and what they're known for. For example, back in the day, people would say Adventists were known to be no piercing, no jewelry or anything. You could walk on the street and see an Adventist because you know they were just plain. there ain't nothing biblical that tells you you shouldn't do this. This is just the way that the organization has decided to say, we will be this type of people. We will be that type of people. And I think a lot of times, as a part of the organization, whether or not we want to say we are or we aren't, we have skewed the lines of what is practice, what is tradition, versus what's biblical.
And this is speaking to your issue.
And so there are things as Adventists that we follow that are strictly tradition and strictly ways to draw the lines between us, Church of God, Jews for Jesus, whatever. There's nothing to do with the Bible.
Or fence.
It's
like
our fence. It's our fence.
To protect us.
To protect us.
Yeah.
And I don't think in many sense there's anything wrong with it, because studies have shown less pork, less red meat, less certain things, you're better off in life. It has nothing to do with biblical. You're just better off.
Look, when she talked about, when Ellen White was talking about tobacco will make your breath stink, it will destroy your lungs. And nobody had that information at the time. People weren't even talking about it. They thought tobacco was good for them. She was coming at them with stuff that no one even had at the point, and it was right. Pork is bad for your body. It's bad for you. The point is, and I guess my whole point with all of this is, what is the Bible saying about God on every single level? What is it saying about God? Paul, I think in this text, is like, look, hold up. No man's going to ever make a rule that's better than the rules of God. No man can even come close to the rule. So if God has said it's holy, that's what's holy. Don't let a man come and tell you. Now, again, I don't know the full context because I wasn't in the conversation with him and whoever else he was talking to before he wrote the letter. But the question remains: who has the authority to make these changes? Jesus is the only one in the Bible who said, "Look, you've heard it said this." He said this all the way through the writings about in the Gospels. You've heard people say, don't commit adultery. Well, how about this, gentlemen? Don't look at a woman with lust in your heart. All the guys are like, dang. Because they're like, I've kept all the laws. I didn't commit adultery. But every night when Mrs. Johnson walked by, you were like, dang, you had your whole little movie in your head. But God is saying, look, it's not about, and Jesus is saying this too, it's not about these boxes that you find yourself in. It's about the intent of your heart. And that's what David was saying. I want your law in my heart. I don't want to just not do this stuff because it's tradition.
And I guess that's like my overarching theme with life. Is that like I don't do rules because when it comes down to man, like for the most part we make rules in order to either keep ourselves in or to keep other people out. And so at the end of the day, if I believe in God and I believe that God is inclusionary, like he wants people to be a part of this thing, then I have to look at the rules. And I understand he has these 10 rules, these 10 laws, and they can break it down on both sides, love for God, love for man, all that kind of stuff, worship of God, all that stuff. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, like the things that we put forth, especially in churches, and I'm just not going to single out Adventism, like it's every church, like the rules that we put out, at the end of the day, like many of them aren't biblical. They're best. They're best practices.
I would need an example.
Well, the drinking.
But here's the thing.
Drinking. I mean, you go through jewelry. Like you go through all these things. These things can be derived from things, but they're not rules.
Here's the thing, because I want to add something to what you said. You said they either keep people in or keep people out. What about the intrinsic part that certain things keep people safe? They keep people happy. Certain rules keep people safe and happy. And we don't want to agree to that. Because, like, for instance, I don't like red lights. I like it when you have a red light and you stop.
Wait.
And I go, listen, because it's a rule. And if half the society decided not to follow the red light rule, then you're going to have a lot more accidents.
No, you're not. You're going to have less accidents.
It's not.
Proven.
Yes, it has been
proven.
It has been proven.
Listen. Because you have, and we live in Maryland, but in Brooklyn, New York, if you have people who say, you know what? I see that light turning yellow. Okay, here's the truth. When my husband sees the light turn yellow, he slows down.
I'm on the move.
He slows down. And he will stop. and the light will turn red. I see the light turn yellow, and I will speed up, and I will look under and see that light yellow, and like, yes, it wasn't red. And my children in the back like, I like driving with you. Or my other one's like, Dad, Mommy, I want to drive with Dad. Because he would have stopped at that light. But here's the rule. There are so many different people, and we can argue this, but there are people who are kept safe by the rule of the red light.
Don't disagree with that.
It's not meant to keep some people out and some people in.
Yes,
it's meant to keep it's meant for us to agree on something so that we can all be safer.
No. It's to keep people safe.
Yes. It's to keep people safer. That's what I said.
That's what I'm saying. He's agreeing.
No. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I want to add that to your rule thing because sometimes
you said it's not the key. It's not that they want to keep people in or keep people out. It's they want to keep people safe. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying they want to keep people in and safe.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying sometimes in a red light, it's not in or out. It's safe.
In court.
I'm saying sometimes. I'm saying sometimes it's to keep people safe. It's to keep people safe. And we have to add that to the in and out. Because God is not trying to put you in and me out.
But why am I trying to keep you safe?
No, I'm trying to keep us safe. If you have to stop at the red light, you don't like it. But you're going to stop while I go.
Okay. But to use your analogy, right?
Yes.
Red light camera, right?
Yes.
And as you and I both have I guess, researched or read, whatever. When they take red lights out and they put roundabouts in, people are safer. There are less accidents. The actual thing that we're using in our tradition to keep people safe is the very thing that's creating accidents.
I would like to
also...
No,
he added a roundabout, though.
I would like to also...
I'm going
to come back and address that. There is a...
But Jesus did that.
I was about to say, that's what Jesus did. He added a roundabout.
That's the point. That's what guys are right there.
And Paul talked about that roundabout in Timothy.
And you know what? Yes. But what I'm saying is, if there's just an X, we have a roundabout, then that's fine. But there's something in place.
There is something, and I wasn't going to have
because when you said roundabout, when I said, okay, wait a minute, you put a roundabout in. More or less, my point is that there's something to keep us safe. There's something there. If there's just the X with the 4-way each way,
we got a problem.
And there's a problem.
But here's the thing.
And a lot of times there's a lot of people who could care less what happens at that intersection because they have less to lose or less to care about than you do.
Here's the problem with the intersection, though, and why studies say that it's better to put the roundabout. The traffic light puts you on autopilot.
Preach. Oh my gosh, this is deep.
You're just...
Yo, that's deep.
Man. That's really deep.
Yo!
That's heavy.
Yo, because that's how we do.
That's how we do.
Yo.
This is exactly what I'm saying.
It's true.
I can't say no again.
That's why Jesus put the roundabout in.
Yeah.
But think about this.
Think about this. People fight against the roundabout.
Break it down.
Break it down. If that is the case, and he is the creator, and he knows, why he didn't just do that from the beginning?
Because it's not about
why
that.
start with the traffic light and then switch to the roundabout?
No, because we didn't need streets in the beginning.
I don't think he started with the traffic light and switched to the roundabout. I think he clarified that the traffic light isn't really a traffic light.
And remember, we didn't have streets in the beginning.
Because what you have to remember is these dudes had
go back. These dudes had
before. Okay, so I don't want to get into all this stuff because the thing is, like, come on, man, you give me books. You give me books. I read books and then I see stuff and I'm like, oh my goodness, like the Ten Commandments. Like, anyway, so Abraham, right? Mm-hmm. Adam, like they dealt with a roundabout.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
They met a roundabout.
Right. Okay.
Right? God had to take, like, things got a little thing, like, weird. So he was like, you know what? I'm going to take this roundabout and put a couple of, like, little things here to get you back on track.
Whoa, let me clarify.
Because they couldn't do it.
Oh my gosh, this is heavy. First of all, what is the thing that makes a roundabout work?
You have to yield.
No, you have to be paying attention
to pay attention
and consideration for someone else.
But I have to be considerate, and I have to make a choice.
Yes.
I got to choose when to go. What happens with the traffic light? My choice is taken away from me.
There you go.
Automatic.
That's heavy,
that's what
man.
I'm talking about.
So what happens is when Jesus said, when God was telling the children of Israel, you do not want a king, it will change the entire thing.
Yo, we should change this joint to the roundabout.
That was what he was talking about. He was like, you don't want a king because all of a sudden now your choice is gone.
We like, no, we want the traffic light.
He's like, nah, we want a traffic light because people are getting killed. And he's like, do you not understand? Like, you need to be one of them. And this is the nature of God coming through on every level. The great controversy is about, is God giving us choice or is he taking choice away? And when we look at church today, what people are saying is, well, I don't have a choice. Because people aren't reading the Word of God for themselves. They're letting someone else tell them, you do this and you're going to go to heaven, you do this, you're going to go to hell. That's never what it's been about from the beginning. That's why when we begin to read Paul, we read Timothy, and we look at him and see what he's saying. He's like, look, don't be abused. You know what he's saying in 1st and 2nd Timothy? He's like, don't be abused because you're good-hearted people.
Yes.
He's like, you're good-hearted people. You can have snakes come in and try to mess with you. Let me tell you some ways you can try to guard against that, because it's going to destroy everything you're trying to do, because two people can come and milk the entire operation dry.
The two he hand over to Satan. What's the name?
M&M family.
Like, he mentioned several names. One was something that had to do with Moses.
He had two guys named with J.
Jambus and
Jambus and
I remember that. And then he had a guy with an H name.
Homogenes and Philos. They deserted him. Philus.
I mean, but
I had a classmate in college who said to me, you know, just do anything you want.
And Alexander.
You know, just do anything you want. Let's say and this is what she's saying. Let's say there is a heaven and there is a hell. How long can you burn? But in heaven, if you don't like doing what's up there, you're gonna be bored to death for eternity.
It's true.
Now, for her to have said that, and for her to mean that the rest of her life, is she someone who the Lord would say, you know what, you're handed over to the devil?
Yes.
And but my thing is, sometimes we look at that like, oh my goodness, that's harsh. If someone does something really, really bad to a child, what was that in New York when the guy chopped up the little kid and put him in a freezer, and it was just crazy. And we don't know what his mental status was, so we're not going to go through the semantics of changing the words are to make us excuse what he did. There are certain things where we don't want to put God how God really is. Sometimes he is soft and gentle with us. Sometimes he is harsh with us.
I don't think it's about God being harsh with us.
And it's not his harshness because he is a bad God. It is because that is how much strength we need from his love. His love is the strength. And we don't understand it, so we use words. Like I use the word harsh, and he moved from his seat like this. You understand what I'm saying?
But you know what?
You understand what I'm saying? Because if God is always love, when I said harsh, you're like, he's not harsh. You know what I mean?
No, but I'm trying to define harsh. I'm trying to shape even that definition of it.
But with God, it doesn't matter, because whatever word I use, because he is love, it's always justified. You get what I'm saying?
Right, but because I know people hear this, and I had a student. I think I told you all a couple weeks ago when my students died, right? People are like, it's harsh. You know, why would God do that? And I'm thinking, why am I thinking about it in this perspective? Why am I thinking about it from the perspective of, oh, she's gone, we're going to cry? From what I believe in the Bible, she's sleeping. She's chilling. Ain't nothing wrong. She's not in pain. She's not upset. She's not sitting around like, dang, I wish I could have gone to my prom or whatever. She's not tripping off that. I'm tripping off of it.
Yes.
Because I'm here. Now, we've got to look at this thing this way. Exactly what you said. Your friend said, look, can you imagine how hard heaven would be for a psychopath? Heaven would be horrible for that person. Like that sure, you want to have my arm? Okay, you can take it. But I want your, like, part of the thrill of sin is the effect it has on those around you. Mm-hmm. And when those around you are no longer affected by your actions, there's no thrill in that.
Really?
A thief. Think about.
I like saying
somebody,
just because of myself.
Think about somebody, but think about somebody stealing, right? Think about if you're a thief, right? If you're a thief, you just want it. You just want to take it. And people are like, okay, Where's the challenge in
Sure.
that? Where's the adrenaline rush
They
in
don't
that?
care. It's
It's
not
not
about
even
them.
there. It's not even.
It's sitting with all the stuff. They
It's
have
gone. Even if you're sitting with stuff, it's like there's more stuff. You want more stuff? You can have more stuff. It's like
it has no value.
there's
anymore.
no meaning
value.
for that person. Heaven is hell. Heaven becomes hell. Would God put that on somebody
grace.
forever?
But going-
not at all.
It's
But going
gracious.
back to what we were talking, like
It's
Exactly.
gracious. And
That's
that's
what
what
I'm
I'm
saying.
It's gracious.
The harsh part. Yeah,
Like,
I was
one
listening
of-
to
gracious.
that.
one of the things that Jared, he's like a father to me. And he told me.
Mad disrespect.
He
Shots
told me.
fired.
He told me. He told me a while back, and he asked this question, I think, to the youth upstairs during youth church, and the question was, would you want to go to heaven if Jesus wasn't there?
Wow.
And so, at the end of the day, like for me, that's where the whole, like Abraham and those guys, they were in love with God.
Right.
They weren't in love with a law. They weren't in love with like these rules, and they weren't concerned about staying safe. They weren't concerned about all that kind of stuff. They were in love with God. Like they wanted to please God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, like, when you start going through the Old Testament, I think the red lights start coming up because people got away from the love of
Loving
God,
God.
and he's like, okay, I might have to walk you back here. I'm gonna walk you back, and like, let's just go back through this, and let's go back through this. So by the time he comes, he was like, all right, now I'm here. This is what you get, and this is like sorry, Bill Maher, like new rules,
Right.
like and this is the new rule that we're gonna have. Killing is not just killing. Now it's if you hate, if you do, like, it's all these things. So now he's like, so now you're buying into me.
He said, I'm coming to fulfill.
And my Father,
He said,
because now we're one that you can see, and now that's it.
He said, I'm coming to fulfill it. I'm not coming to destroy it. I'm making it make more sense to you.
Yes.
I'm going to try to make you understand it in a deeper way, because what happened was, and this happened it still happens today, the writings of the Pharisees, the rabbis, Gamaliel, these guys were writing these their interpretations of the law. Now, for a lot of people, those interpretations are more important than the words of the law that God said Himself. And this is clear. I've read some Hebrew or some Jewish theologians who say, yeah, you can look at this law this way, but we have all agreed that this makes more sense. That's what the Catholic Church did with the Sabbath. We agreed that we're going to change it. They say it openly.
Yeah.
Where it's like, and this is what Paul again was writing about in Timothy, where he's like, look, people are going to come through and add different stuff, take stuff away. That's not the point. The point is, do you love God? Do you love your fellow man? Because when you have the law in your heart, you're not thinking, if I'm truly serving God, if I'm truly following God, and I look at somebody's wife, right? I'm thinking, I want her to have a great life. I want her to have to have a bunch of kids. And I want her and her husband to be awesome. That's what I'm thinking about. My thoughts are not anything but that. If I'm looking at somebody's car, I'm like, yo, brother, I'm glad you got that car, man. God is blessing you in your life, man. How does it drive? I'm not jealous about the car because I love this brother. I want him to be happy. I'm putting someone else before me. So the idea of the law becomes null and void. And that's, I think, what Paul starts talking about. He's like, the law is like, it's not the law that keeps you. It's Jesus that keeps you. Because you love Jesus, the law is like, yeah, of course. Why would I want to take somebody's stuff? I have no desire for that. Like, I don't want your stuff. I got my own stuff.
And the law is necessary because I don't know what book it is, but it talks about like being the mirror. Like you look at yourself and you're able to see. You're able to see where you're not kind of matching up. So the law is necessary. But at the end of the day, what I think we miss out on, and we continue to miss out, is the love. Like we don't love God, and so if I don't love God enough, then it doesn't matter whether I keep the law.
You know what I think the issue is, Carrick? It's not that we don't love God. We don't want to admit that we don't love God. I think for me, in all the conversations that I'm having, I do love Him. No, you really don't.
You don't.
And it's not till you get to the point where you realize that you don't,
don't.
that something's going to change.
Which is why you have Hosea. Which is why you had Hosea. Like they were coming. That was one of the things. Like you say all these things, and you come like to the point where I guess in Isaiah he was like, stop coming. Like stop praying, stop saying, stop bringing me stuff. Like I don't want it because you don't
really mean it. Look, one of the things about the law, my family were slaves. My father's family were slaves in Richmond, and my father's great-grand aunt, my grandfather's grand aunt, was a little child, and she remembers being a slave. She told my grandfather that when she was little, there was one day, and they all had to. They were all called out into the middle. The master had died, and they were going to now be auctioned off. And they were like, "What's going to happen?" And so they stood there all day waiting for everyone to come. His nephew had to come from town. The lawyer had to come. All these other people, the constable had to come. People were there. You know, all the overseers, everybody came, and the slaves were just standing there. She said she was a little girl. She remembers this, and they read through the will. You know, the garden hose goes to this person. They're like, well, who do the slaves? Everybody's like, wait, who's going to get the property and the slaves? He willed everything to his slaves.
Oh, wow.
Now,
but who did he will the slaves to?
He willed the slaves to the plantation, and he willed the plantation to the slaves.
Oh, wow. Okay, so
now his nephew was upset. They sued in court. It was his will. It couldn't change it. The lawyer was like, and the lawyers, you know, and this is the family kind of thought, is the lawyer, this is what she told him. The lawyer said, it's yours, take it, it's yours. And the slaves are just standing there like,
they don't understand that.
They don't understand it. Now, the slaves had built the entire place. The slaves had put they tended it, they took care of all the animals, they took care of all the crops, and this is like the law. The law, Paul says, the law was your enemy. But now you know Christ, the very thing that was your enemy is now the thing that will sustain you. Because now you're not doing it simply because you're forced to. You're doing it because this is what I want to do.
Now it's mine. I can do it.
And it changes the whole perspective. And when we begin to look at the law, we look at what Christ was talking about with the law. Christ said, look, I'm not coming to change it. I'm coming to fulfill it. There's a part you missed out on. The part you missed out on is the fact that it's going to make you happier. You're going to be smiling a lot more.
You mentioned something weird. It's that we don't want to admit that we don't love God.
That's deep.
That bothers me. That bothers me because I love my mom. I really like my mom all the time. If you're watching, Mom, you know this. It's not that I don't love her. I think sometimes either I don't respect her wisdom, I don't agree with what she says, or I'm just a rebel. And I'm relating it to God. It's not that I don't love God. The human in me is saying, I don't like that God, personally, since you're going to give me a choice. I understand that this is a lose-lose situation for me. I said it's a lose-lose. I'm still going to fight you. I'm going to rebel. I do love you. I understand where you're coming from. It doesn't mean I don't love you because I don't follow in my personal opinion. Because if I relate it to my parents, it's not that I don't love them. I rebel. I just don't agree.
But here's the thing. But to Jared's point,
if you love me,
keep my commandments.
If you love me,
keep my commandments.
If you don't keep my commandments,
you don't love me.
But not even.
But
not even.
I don't know if that's
the
part that we get twisted on. What are the commandments?
But even that, it
changes.
comes down to, and we had this conversation in youth church the other day. It comes down to, it's less about yes, if you love me, keep my commandments. But the problem is that when you're making those decisions and you're having those conversations, like, you have to understand that you're now putting what you want above what God wants. So you might love him at this much, which is a lot, but you're saying that I love what I want to do more than what I love what you want me to do. So now you've taken him, and although you still love, I'm not saying you don't love him, but you don't love him more than you. And if you don't love him more than you, then
the Bible says
you worship you and not him.
You'll either love one or hate the other. It doesn't say you'll love both and you love one more than the other. The Bible doesn't allow for that. It doesn't seem to allow for that.
Well, if that's the case, the repenting piece of this all makes no sense. If that's the case, because I will sin. I will. It's not that I won't. I will sin, and I will truly ask for forgiveness at some point. And I will at some point put my will above God's will. And if that's the case, that means I come out of love and hate every other day of my life. I just keep bouncing back and forth.
And that might be true.
But it depends on what we consider sin to be. What is sin? Is sin me rebelling against God? No, sin is me not trusting God. I don't trust that God will meet my need. That is what sin is. I don't trust that God will meet my need. I want to buy it. I see this thing. I'm like, man, I need some money, yo. Tax season's coming about. My wife, I need some money. I may as well just fudge that little thing. I don't trust that God will meet my financial need. I want to do this.
I think trusting isn't part of it, but I think it's rebellion.
And I think it's rebellion.
What else is rebellion? What else is rebellion? You can't do this in the way that I can do it. I can do it better.
It's not just about trust. Sometimes it's about what you want. It's not what God wants for you.
I want this piece of cake.
You want it more.
My question is, do you trust that God? Do you trust that God can get?
Yeah, trust is a component of that.
But if it's not in His will, if it's not in His will, you're gonna go against His will.
My question is, do I trust that God's will is better than my will, or that God's version of life is better than my version of life?
And that's the thing. The thing is, you're right. But the thing is, it's not about whether or not I trust God. I might know specifically. I am married to one person. He is married to another person. If I change my mindset and go insane, right? And I
love the way you qualify that. Yes.
Yeah,
I love the
awesome,
qualification.
Jared.
Go insane.
Go insane.
I have a problem with change.
And against God, and go against God's will.
If you go further down that road,
I'm not supposed to even ask God for Jared.
Right.
That is a red light. Okay, we say, oh, it's a roundabout. Okay, what roundabout can I get Jared? Can you think of a roundabout for me to get Jared? You understand? No, God says no. That's a red light. This is a red light. And as humans, we don't like the fact that there are some red lights. There are some. No, you may not. Now, if I do it anyway, I am in sin. Now, at that moment, do I still do this for God? This is my one thing. Do I not love God? This is something that is blocking my full devotion and communication to God. And if you ask my husband and if you ask his wife, they would say, you don't love me if I came home and say, well, no, I was just with Shoney's that one time. Would they say, you love me? This is one time. You're in and out of love. But I love you today. I haven't seen her for 3 weeks.
Well, now, it's okay, but now...
You understand?
I understand what you're saying.
How about if we come in together and we both kiss Vanessa and say, I love you, honey, and then we go in the back room?
Look.
Do I really love Vanessa at that point?
But then you go home with her, so you love her. You go home with her, so you love her.
My point with the trust.
I pass and I acknowledge her on the way.
My point with the trusting is this.
Okay, see.
My point with the trusting is this. Do I believe that God's will for my life is better than my imagination of my will for my life? Or how my life should be.
See?
That's the question. That is what sin is. Sin is me saying, yo, you really don't know that this is really good for me. You don't know what's going to make me really happy. You don't know what's going to make me feel great about my life.
You just don't know God.
Exactly. And that's what my point is. We do not trust God. We don't trust God with the things we don't understand.
And trust is connected to love.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So we use semantics because the truth is there's certain things I'm not supposed. People say, well, you don't trust.
Can you love somebody you don't trust? No.
But there are certain things that you're not supposed to. Oh my goodness, that's 2 hours.
We get enough time over there that we need to get all the way to the house.
I think God does that every day.
No,
he for sure doesn't trust me.
I'm not.
I'm not the one.
But I'm not God.
I am nobody in situation.
Think about that. Can you love someone you don't trust?
No, love and trust is not synonymous.
Guys, that's
love and trust. I love my children. I don't trust them with my finances.
I'm sorry. I trust Keenan.
You don't trust who?
I don't trust them.
My children.
I trust Kenton a little bit.
Can you love someone you don't trust? Think about that though.
Yes, you can. Yes,
how about Randy when we go? When you leave here tonight?
I'm not marrying someone I can't trust.
Facebook.
Post that on Facebook.
Exactly.
Post that question on Facebook tonight.
Yes.
Tomorrow. Don't forget.
They are not ready for trust. Remember.
I think you can.
Yes, you can. If you're in a relationship, you can trust more and more.
I'll paste my comments after he posts.
Remind him to post it.
You have to post
I can't trust you.
She's going to post yours.
My wife gets upset.
You're going to post yours.
I was like, I can't be jealous because I trust you.
Wow.
No, we're going to pray. We're going to pray. We are going to pray.
For me, it's all enough.
For me, in my
all right, guys. Let's pray and
I got married without fully trusting, and I'm happy.
Who prayed to start? You pray.
But
you know
not
what I mean?
trusting.
Because you grow in trust. You grow in
trust.
You grow to trust. But I loved. You understand? Mm-hmm. God cannot completely trust me with certain things.
Women treat trust different than men treat trust.
That's because you changing the meaning of trust. You can't change the meaning to meet whatever you mean. There's not a feminine trust and a masculine
but
trust.
there is a different interpretation of what trust is, because I know many women who love their husbands or don't trust them. And what you guys just said to me, every man in here said trust is all or nothing.
Then you don't truly love them.
I don't.
No, he don't. He just
no, you don't.
I think the issue is the definition of love.
No.
Or the definition of trust.
No, the definition of trust.
Or both.
We haven't defined those terms.
Yeah, we haven't defined those terms, so we're working with all kind of varying definitions.
Pray.
Okay,
well,
let's pray.
First of all, thank you guys for this and for the time and for
you guys
contributions. Yeah. We're gonna post a video hopefully soon.
Hopefully tonight.
Hopefully tonight. Hopefully the file is saved.
I want to watch it while I go to sleep.
It's my husband's birthday.
The next time is the first Friday in September. So I think there's 2 more weeks. So I think it's 2 weeks and
I gotta check and see because I wanted to share this with you. You know, I was like, Lord, you know, I'm gonna be doing this nonprofit. I don't know what I'm teaching at TA. Next year. I'm teaching at TA. Like they call Academy. They called me like 2 weeks ago. We'd like for you to come in for an interview. I give those jokers my like 2 years ago, man. Nice. I was like, are you serious?
What are you teaching?
I'm teaching English is what I do. Like I'm an English teacher.
You teach a Bible.
Yeah, I'm teaching Bible. Now, they actually have me in the Bible teacher's room. I'm like,
they let everybody teach Bible there. Dad.
Hey,
it's a joke.
The whole place is full of these crazy people. Nah, but it's just a blessing because I was not planning on teaching again. I've been teaching in the hood, like out in Southeast for like the last 7 years. And it was, I was like, you know, the other day we went out to lunch and I started crying. She's like, what's wrong? I was like, it's not fair. My kids here, I'm crying, right? I'm like, my kids, the kids that I have in Southeast, man, it's not fair. Like 13 miles away. Like I'm gonna be in a place where the kids come in and they're like, they leave their cell phones in the hallway charging.
Or in your room.
Or I can leave my room open and no one's gonna steal anything.
Oh yeah, they will.
Nah, they won't. Like one of my boys from
I don't know.
One of the teachers at TA,
okay.
he
You're
was
not
like,
arguing me. You're not arguing me.
one of the teachers from TA, he was like, yo, I left my cell phone in the room. He said, I was tripping because he's been teaching in the city too. He was like, my cell phone was
teacher,
there.
Right?
Yeah. He was like,
you taught at TA too?
I'm a sub.
Yeah, so the idea is so mind-blowing to me that I don't have to get out of my car thinking, Lord, don't let me hurt any kids. And if I do hurt them, let me hurt them.
Don't say that so fast.
No, I'm trying to tell you.
It's not going to be on the level that you saw.
It's a different level.
Trust me. When I say like where I was at, and like I've had literally like I'm actually scared. I'm looking at a situation. I'm like, Lord, I could die. Like I've been in this situation. I'm looking at kids jumping at somebody in front of the school.
Oh no, that's not gonna happen.
And I'm walking. I'm looking. I'm the only teacher in the doorway. All the teachers like, we're not going outside. I'm like, I cannot watch this kid get killed in front of me. I run out. They've stabbed him up in his face. His face is all cut up. He decked 3 kids. I was like, yo, you're a beast anyway on your own. But I went out there and I was like, Lord, help me. And I mean, I'm in mortal danger. I don't just think about that.
No, you don't have to think about that at all.
I just want to praise God.
Yeah, you don't have
to take off the extension.
Bro, I grew up around there, man. I know all the crazy people in Tacoma.
Vanessa is taking up the wires. That means we need to go.
We need to leave. Yeah.
So
she could have done it like an hour ago.
You're gonna.
Well, if you had done that, we were still rolling. We did it after.
They were still recording.
We taped the whole thing.
They shut down the recording.
Whenever there recording, just look at me. I'll tell you.
We only turned it off about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, we've been recording. They've been recording.